Meet Nellie Jackson. She is pretty well known in South Mississippi, and for good reason. You could say that Nellie did things her way. Nellie was born in Wilkinson County, Mississippi in 1902 to Jim Jackson and Inez Jones, a sharecropper family. Life would have been hard in this era. It was hard on most everyone. In May 1918, she married Wiley Baines. With her husband, she moved to Natchez, Mississippi in 1930 from the tiny settlement of Possum Corner. The marriage dissolved soon after, leaving her to learn to navigate a city defined by sharp racial lines, limited opportunities for African American women, and an economy split between its elegant tourist facade and a thriving underground trade. Natchez at that time was a place where Black women were largely restricted to domestic service, laundry work, or agricultural labor. Yet the city also harbored a long-standing tolerance for vice industries, like gambling rooms, bootleg whiskey routes, and discreet brothels that operated with the quiet blessing of white political leaders. Into this environment, Nellie established a boarding house at 416 North Rankin Street. It was in a modest home in a predominantly Black neighborhood where residents shared food, childcare, and protection during the harsh racial tensions of the era. Over time, her boarding house evolved into one of the most famous clandestine brothels in the United States, functioning openly for more than 60 years under the silent protection of local authorities who were themselves frequent patrons. To survive the violent racial realities of the era, she allowed only white men as customers, turning her parlor into a powerful listening post where judges, deputies, and businessmen spoke too freely. Nellie used this information strategically, quietly passing intelligence to civil rights organizers and federal investigators, while also using her considerable cash reserves to bail out more than 200 jailed civil rights marchers in a single day. Within Natchez's Black community, especially during the tense 1960s when the city saw boycotts, Klan activity, and the rise of the Deacons for Defense, she was known not for scandal, but for generosity when she bought groceries for struggling families, paid medical bills when Black patients were denied fair treatment, and funded college tuition for young people seeking a way out of the rigid racial hierarchy. Nellie Jackson did spend some time in jail. Because of her long-standing presence in Natchez and her relationships with many of the city's powerful men, including local law enforcement, her stays in jail were typically brief, and authorities generally let her out as soon as they reasonably could. The tragic fire that ended the life of 87-year-old Nellie Jackson and destroyed a piece of historic Natchez occurred in the early morning hours of July 5, 1990, when 20-year-old Daniel Eric Breezeal, a University of Mississippi student working in the area for the summer, was denied entry to her house at 416 North Rankin Street due to his intoxicated and disorderly behavior. Furious at being turned away, Breezeal returned a short time later carrying an ice chest completely filled with gasoline, which he began pouring across the wooden front porch before forcing his way inside the home, where he poured the fuel directly onto Nellie and inadvertently splashed it onto his own clothing in his frantic state. When Breezeal struck a flame, the concentrated vapors instantly ignited into a massive, violent fireball, with an explosion so powerful it physically blew the attacker completely out of the house and across the street, where waking neighbors witnessed him resembling a ball of fire shooting across the road. Although the fire department arrived quickly and managed to contain the heavy blaze to the front porch and front bedroom area, saving the main structure of the two-story wood frame building, the human toll was devastating as Nellie suffered catastrophic first, second, and third-degree burns covering 100% of her body and fought for her life for nearly a week before succumbing to her injuries on July 11, 1990, at a specialized burn center in Greenville, Mississippi. The attacker survived the initial blast with third-degree burns covering 80% of his body, but later died from his injuries at a medical center in Jackson, Mississippi, ensuring the case never went to trial, while two of Nellie's four beloved dogs tragically perished in the smoke and flames of the front bedroom. Nellie Jackson died on July 11, 1990, from injuries sustained in this fire. In the end, Nellie Jackson's life stood as a contradiction the South never fully understood. A woman born into poverty who built her own power. A business owner who operated in the shadows, yet shaped the fate of a community, and a quiet force who used information, money, and courage to protect people the world tried to forget. She lived for nearly 9 decades in a city defined by rigid racial lines, yet she found ways to bend those lines, slip through them, and sometimes break them entirely. When her life ended in fire, Natchez lost not just a notorious figure, but a protector, a strategist, and a woman who carved out freedom where none was offered. Her legacy endures in the lives she lifted, the students she sent to college, the marchers she freed, and the truth that even in the harshest corners of the South, one woman could change the balance of power simply by refusing to be powerless. Let's remember Nellie Jackson and her contributions. Rest in peace, Nellie.